I've read the indictment. I've read the statement of facts. I've read everything that was provided by District Attorney Bragg in New York City in the Manhattan Criminal Court. And that's why I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this indictment is a disgrace. It is a failure on its face. It has failed to allege an actual crime. It should be tossed out of the court for being insufficient as a matter of law. This is not a political analysis. This is going to be a legal analysis. I'll also talk a bit about the political. But let me start with the legal. Effectively, a lot of numbskulls out there are like, oh, he's been charged with 34 felonies. And no, it's the same thing repeated over and over again. Here's what happened. Donald Trump paid $130,000 of his own money to Stormy Daniels, who was extorting him for 5 years, saying that she was going to allege that they had a sexual relationship. Trump denies that there was a sexual relationship. But he paid $130,000 because he did not want her story to go public. As a result of that payment, Stormy Daniels was not supposed to speak on this issue. In fact, that was the entire reason she was paid $130,000, was to sign a non-disclosure agreement. She violated the non-disclosure agreement. She has told her story and gotten paid for it. If anybody is a victim here, it is Donald Trump, because otherwise this is a victimless crime. Stormy Daniels got paid $130,000 for her story. She later told her story anyway, so she got money for nothing. And this entire complaint fails on its face. Let me give you a couple of, and this is me wearing my lawyer hat. This is me taking you through all this. Okay, first of all, these are misdemeanors. The misdemeanor charges in this case for falsifying business records has a 2-year statute of limitations. That means it has already expired. It is not close to still being a viable, substantial case as a misdemeanor. But on top of that, the only way that this case can be brought by DA Alvin Bragg, who specifically got elected claiming that he was going to get Donald Trump, is by trumping up these misdemeanor charges to a felony by alleging that the misdemeanor occurred in the commission of another crime. What is that crime? We don't know. It's not laid out in the four corners of the document that was used to indict Donald Trump. Could be a state election crime in New York. Could be a federal election crime in New York. Could be some sort of tax-related charge. We don't know because Alvin Bragg has not specified what that second crime is. That's why this case should be dismissed if a judge were actually doing his job. That is what would occur because Donald Trump cannot provide, his counsel cannot provide adequate legal defense if they don't know what the charges are being brought against him. So this should fail and be dismissed as a matter of law, okay? Going forward, however, it's an embarrassment for DA Bragg. This is the first time in 240 years that a president, former president, leading candidate for a party, or nominee for president has been charged with a crime. This is the first time a president has been arrested, interestingly, since Ulysses S. Grant was arrested in the 1870s for racing too fast along Pennsylvania Avenue. He paid a $20 fine and was taken down to the courthouse in the 1870s. It's an interesting factual basis. First time there's been a president or former president arrested since then, okay? This is unheard of, effectively. And we didn't know about the Grant arrest for like 100 years till it was confirmed because the guy who arrested him kept quiet. Nobody wrote about it. Nobody knew about it till after Grant died. And then it didn't become a real story till like 100 years later. Anyway, that's just an interesting little backstory. The point here is Bragg, 240 years of criminal investigations that have gone into people like Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, people that we know committed crimes, no criminal charges brought against them. Now there are criminal charges brought against Trump. It is an illegitimate, entirely political-based attack. Now, what's interesting here is I think it actually benefits Donald Trump in a big way. These charges are so illegitimate and so founded in politics over the law that Bragg came at Trump and he missed. He leaked, by the way, all of the grand jury investigation, all of the charges. There was no surprise. There was no smoking gun, so to speak, in these charges. It's an embarrassment. Bragg came at the king and he missed, which is why it's going to be a huge advantage for Donald Trump going forward. Now, here's what I wish we had heard from Trump last night at Mar-a-Lago that we did not. Trump is very good talking about Trump. He's very good when the story is, I'm Donald Trump. He soaks up oxygen. His address last night for 25 minutes at Mar-a-Lago was on every television network. He is adroit. He is skilled. He is an incredibly aggressive defender of himself, and he soaks up oxygen like no politician in my life. But a lot of times that means Trump is very focused on Trump himself and not the larger context surrounding Trump. And that's what I think the bigger story is here. Let me explain. Trump is, to me, a personification now of what can happen when one political party decides that they are going to throw all precedent, all history, all notions of fair play and justice out the window and just go after their political adversary. This has never happened before in American political history, that a leading presidential candidate, a former president, would have a charge foisted against him, and that it would occur in the middle of his attempt to become the nominee to run against the sitting president. Moreover, that this would occur in April of 2023. The next hearing in this case is not set till December 4th of 2023. And right now, wildly, Bragg and the New York District Attorney's Office is asking for a trial in this case in January of 2024, directly in the middle of the Republican primary season. It's unprecedented interference with an election. We've never seen anything like this before. Trump, if he could make this about the anti-democratic decisions, the ridiculous politicization of our Justice Department, and how he is an example of that, I think he would win. And I think he would win big. And as I said yesterday, I would love to see Trump. I wish he had done it last night. I wish he had said, if you've come to this country from Cuba, if you've come to this country from Venezuela, if you've come to this country from Russia or China, you know what is going on here. Those countries regularly jail the political adversaries of people in power. It's never happened in America before. It's happening to me now. It's important for you to understand this. I'm just the first. I'm not going to be the last. Democrats, while claiming to be opposed to authoritarianism, to totalitarianism, to total and complete political power, are actually doing things to their political adversaries that have never happened before in the United States history. Democrats are trying to put me in jail to keep me from being the next president of the United States. That is the message that Trump should be hammering. Also, he should pivot, in my opinion, from that and say, as a result of the seriousness of these attacks upon me and American democracy, I'm not going to say a single negative word about anybody else running for the Republican nomination. I'm going to be the nominee. I am going to go toe-to-toe with Joe Biden, and I am going to beat him, and I'm going to remake America and put back in an actual Department of Justice. Okay? I am going to do all that, but I'm not going to punch down at other Republicans right now because the stakes are too high. Every Republican, to their credit, has lined up behind me and pointed out how illegitimate these charges are. I'm going to return that goodwill by no longer attacking people. Even though I want to attack Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and whoever else is running against me, because I'm clearly the best candidate, I'm going to refrain from doing that because the consequences are too dire right now, and Democrats are attacking us too aggressively with a united front, whether it's Joe Biden, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis down in Atlanta, soon to be Jack Smith with the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland. They're all lined up against me. I don't need to be firing behind lines at other people that are inside of our friendly combatant line. I don't need to turn the gun on somebody else who's sitting here inside of the foxhole with me. So I'm not going to do that anymore. If Trump could do that, if Trump could deliver that message that I just laid out, he'd win in 2024, and I think he'd win comfortably. Not sure if he can do it. Because the challenge with Trump is he's a bull in a china shop. He automatically makes everything about him, and then it turns into a grievance against Trump as opposed to a grievance against the country. A lot of people out there, I think, sadly, don't care what's done to Trump because they've made up their mind about what they think about Donald Trump, about what they think about his politics. That's why this story can't be about what's being done to Trump. It has to elevate and be about what Democrats are doing to the country and the precedent that they are setting, and the fact that Trump is not going to be the only guy that faces this. He is just the first. Trump's 76. He's going to be, at some point, probably sooner rather than later, off the political stage. Even if he wins in 2024, his political career is over by 2028. He is going to be off the stage. But somebody else is going to be up next, and the Democrats are going to use the same sordid playbook against them. That's the message that Trump needs to share. And that's the message that I wish he would share. But I circle back again on the criminal allegations, the indictment. There isn't a single victim, not one victim in the entire United States from this sordid mess. Not one, unless you want to consider Trump himself to be the victim. Nobody else, not the state of New York, not the country certainly, not Stormy Daniels, not Karen McDougal, none of them. None of these people are victims. And so the idea that New York would spend tens of millions of dollars, untold numbers of hours going after Donald Trump is, to me, indefensible. But 8 months until the next hearing. Lots of motions going to be filed in the meantime. This is a dead on arrival case. There are going to be, in my opinion, no significant legal consequences to eventually emerge from this case. The question is, what happens in Atlanta? What happens with DOJ going forward? And how does Trump continue to respond?